another thing I want to touch on is, because I know I've now met your whole family and your kids and everything. That's good for some parents to hear, because I think there's still this stigma of like, a lot of people want to give CBD to their kids because it's extremely beneficial, or help them with sleep or something like that if they have rambunctious kids. And I've actually heard CBD is great for things like ADHD and behavioral issues and anxiety in children. So, but I think there are some parents that feel this weird guilt, and it's just societal programming and everything of like, am I going to give any amount of THC to my child?
Yeah.
So maybe they'd look at broad spectrum. But I would like to talk to you about, you have no problem with it. Like, you give full spectrum to your kids, right?
Yeah. It's not something that I do like every day by any means, but I look at the other things that are used for like ADHD in kids. You know, ibuprofen, Tylenol, which is like toxic very quickly. And all these other drugs that are widely accepted to be able to give to kids and infants.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the looking at, for just my personal perspective on it, would I rather give that, or would I rather give a plant? I'm going to go to the plant every time.
Dude, this is an important thing. And just in case anyone's never heard my podcast or heard me talk about this, I'm sure like some of your people are going to listen to this that may have never heard me. I constantly harp on this concept of LD50. So there's this thing in pharmaceutical drugs and medicine called LD50. This is lethal dose at 50. That means at what dose 50% of the population will die. Wow. So LD50 literally means at this particular dose, 50% of people who take that dose will die.
Wow.
There's an LD50 for water. There's an LD50 for salt. There's an LD50 for Tylenol. I mean, you take 10 Tylenol, you're going to die.
Yeah.
It's like, it is a very low, depending on the size of the milligram of the pill. I mean, you can die very quickly with things like Tylenol. There's an LD50 for Adderall, for Ambien, all these things that are quite low amounts. I mean, look at alcohol.
Yeah.
If you chug a bottle of Jack Daniels, most people are like, you're going to die.
Yeah.
You know? THC, CBD, all these compounds, there is no LD50. Nope. You can't die.
Yep.
So any parent listening to this, if you can look me in the eyes and think that somehow Tylenol is a safer bet for your kid, or Adderall or Ritalin is a safer bet for your kid than a broad spectrum or a full spectrum or a CBD isolate, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but you really got to analyze the logic and the rationale that you're coming up with. How are you making that leap in your brain that one of these things is okay? And it's like, for a lot of people, it's societal pressure. It's because, you know, their grandma is going to think they're crazy for giving their kid THC or whatever. And it's like, yeah, this really is programming. And if you look hard at the evidence, you can't make the opposite argument. You can't do it.
No, but it's all programming.
Yeah.
It really does. Because there's nothing different in that when we really look at the facts. Like you were just explaining with the LD50 and all the other things that the side effects that these strong drugs that they give kids do. But for some reason, you know, it's like it's frowned upon.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that's just a stigma, and that's really what I hope to break down with the brand, right?
Yeah.
Is create stories, because I feel like me sharing the story that I do give CBD to my kids and why might help someone else that's trying to decide as well. And I'm not knocking pharmaceuticals, and I think they have a place definitely in society, and you know, there's some amazing innovations that have gone on that are life-saving. And I feel like some kids and certain things, like there's drugs that are perfectly designed and needed for them. I'm just not quick to jump straight onto a drug that's going to be needed for the rest of my kid's life or anything like that. And so that's where I kind of hold back, and I'm like looking at like, all right, I'm weighing these options out myself, and CBD, from what I've read and all that I've worked with this plant and all my experience with the plant, I definitely feel personally that is a way safer alternative than what a lot of people are giving their kids right now. For pharmaceutical drugs.
And again, like LD50 is something anyone listening to this or watching this can Google LD50, and then you can just look at, like, go to PubMed or wherever you want to go and just look at side effects. Like, what are the side effects of if you take 100 times a normal dose of CBD? What are the side effects? What are the side effects if you take 100 more of Tylenol? You die. You're just dead. That's the symptom. You know, like the side effect is death. So it's really crazy, man.